He was about 12 years old, standing in a room full of people. His friends, his family, they were all there. And his father stood up with that look on his face. And what happened next took about 30 seconds. The father began to mimic the boy's baseball batting stance, exaggerating it, twisting his hips wildly, stomping his feet, swinging an invisible bat with theatrical absurdity. And the room laughed. And the boy asked, "Dad, please stop." But the dad, he didn't listen, and the mockery continued. The boy stood there, fists clenched, his knuckles white, and then the tears came. And the boy stormed out of the room, face red, tears flowing, humiliated. And behind him, the laughter continued. I'm Bill. This is the Warrior Medic. That scene happened more than once. The father seemed to enjoy it. He returned to it whenever the boy's friends were around, whenever there was a crowd or an audience. Every time the boy stood there and the room laughed. And the boy, he concluded something, not about his batting, about himself. There's a difference between guilt and shame that most men have never been taught. And that difference is everything. Guilt says, I did something bad. Shame says, I am something bad. Guilt is about behavior, and shame is about identity. And guilt can be corrected. You did something wrong, you acknowledge it, make it right, move on. But shame cannot be corrected because it's not about what you did, it's about what you are. And you can't fix what you are, you can only hide it. And the boy standing in the room didn't conclude, my batting stance it needs work. He concluded, I am a joke. Not, I did something embarrassing, or not that my father was cruel, but I am a joke. That's the shame wound installing itself, not through a single dramatic moment, but through a verdict delivered in front of witnesses. Proverbs 12, verse 18 says, the words of the reckless pierce like a sword. The father's mockery wasn't just embarrassing, it was a weapon aimed at the boy's developing sense of who he was. And it hit the target because the boy, he believed it. Children always believe their fathers. That's not a weakness. That's how God designed that relationship. The father's voice is meant to be the voice that tells a boy who he is. When that voice says, through mockery or through contempt, you are something to be laughed at, the boy writes it into his identity, and he carries it into every room he enters for the rest of his life. And the boy who concludes he's a joke grows into a man with one driving objective: make sure nobody laughs at him ever again. He builds a mask, and that mask has two faces. The first face is performance, achievement, excellence, control, perfection. The shamed man becomes the hardest worker in the room, the most prepared man at the meeting, the one who never makes a mistake because mistakes invite the laughter he spent his entire life trying to escape. He doesn't achieve to build something, he achieves to prove something. I'm not a joke. I'm not what he said I was. Watch what I can do. The achievements are real, and his life, it looks impressive from the outside. But from the inside, he's still 11, 12 years old, standing in that room waiting for the laughter to start. The second face of shame is violence. When performance isn't enough, when someone gets close enough to see behind the mask, when exposure feels imminent, the shame fires. And shame at full volume sounds exactly like rage. The man doesn't think, I feel ashamed right now. What he does think, you better back off. You need to stop looking at me. Violence is the fastest way to make an audience stop laughing. The boy learned that in that room. He stormed out in rage, and the discomfort of being seen converted instantly into aggression. And decades later, that man does the same thing. He does it in his marriage, at work, with his sons. Two masks, one wound. Performance and violence, both designed to protect the same thing. The boy who was told he was a joke and believed it. Here's what the shame wound cannot survive. There's a higher verdict. The father delivered his verdict in a room full of people. You're the joke, something to be laughed at. That verdict felt final. It felt authoritative, like truth, because the man who delivered it was the man whose voice was supposed to define you. But take heart, because there's another voice, and it was speaking before your father ever opened his mouth. Psalm 139, verse 14. I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Not I will be fearfully and wonderfully made, but I am. Present tense, right now, as you are, with the wound, with the mask, the rage, and the shame. But you are fearfully and wonderfully made. Zephaniah 3, verse 17. The Lord your God is with you, the mighty warrior who saves. He will take great delight in you. In his love, he will no longer rebuke you, but will rejoice over you with singing. Your father stood up and mocked, and the room laughed, but the Father sings. Same boy, two different responses. Only one of them is God. Romans 8, verse 1. There is therefore no condemnation for those who are in Christ Jesus. No condemnation, not reduced condemnation, none. Your father's verdict was delivered with laughter, but God's verdict was delivered on a cross. And God's verdict outranks every room your father ever performed in. So here's the challenge. Write down the verdict your father delivered, not what he said about your batting stance, what he said about you. You're worthless. You are the joke. Write it down, and then write this next to it. I am fearfully and wonderfully made. There is no condemnation. The Father sings over me. Two verdicts. Write them side by side. One from a man who stood up and mocked, and one from the God who was present at your creation. Only one of them was there before that wound was installed. Only one of them will be standing when everything else is gone. The practical step is the writing, but the healing, the actual displacement of that shame verdict requires a relationship. Not a religion, a relationship with the one whose verdict has never once included laughter at your expense. A relationship with the healer, the one who loved you through it all. My friend, Jesus. He was in that room. He saw the boy standing there, and he grieved at what the laughter did to you. And he has been speaking a different verdict ever since. I'm Bill. This is the Warrior Medic. No man left behind.